Here at Coffee Table Chronicles, we are appalled by the recent mass shootings that have occurred in this country. The countless innocent lives taken in a blink of an eye. Young children, sons and daughters ripped from their families. But this feeling doesn't stop with mass shootings. We are appalled by all violence in our country. Violence that continues to threaten our way of life, our constitutional freedoms, our freedom of speech, our right to bear arms and protect ourselves, our families, and fellow Americans. The conversation always comes down to the guns. In this episode, we intend to have a real conversation about guns and our beliefs that there's a much bigger conversation that needs to be had. Please join us in remembering all those we have lost due to violent, heinous, despicable acts. Warning. The views in this program are based on the opinions of hosts and guests. We are four friends who like to sit around and talk about a variety of topics. This show may be political in nature and may appear one-sided if no one of opposition joins in on the conversation. We try to find common ground on sometimes sensitive topics. So grab a beverage of your choice and let's have a conversation.
Hi,
Welcome,
everyone.
everybody. Happy Friday.
Yes, we finally made it.
It's been a hell of a week.
It has been a hell of a week.
With a holiday included. And it's still been a hell of a week.
Well,
That's
it
true.
seems like whenever you have a holiday, you're
It's worse.
cramming, right? You're cramming a whole week
Mhm.
into 4 days instead of 5.
That's true, huh? It
It is
really
true.
does feel that way. Yeah. Especially this week. it's been
Well,
one
and
of
we
those
were off
weeks.
last week.
Right.
True.
But I heard everybody enjoyed the best of last week. I heard it was
It was good.
kinda
We
fun.
popped in.
We tried to as we were driving down the
You were
strip.
driving. I was texting. Could have been drunk texting.
So
No, you
I'm
did a
sorry
good job.
if I said anything strange.
thank you for you guys jumping on and chatting with everybody.
Absolutely.
We enjoyed it.
That was cool.
Turned out good.
So
We had fun in Vegas.
yeah, we did. It was a good time.
Got a new cup. And on the inside, it says, I'm irresistible.
Let me guess, you got that at the M&M store?
I did.
Bingo.
And a tie-dye dog collar for Bill.
An M&M one.
An M&M one.
Awesome.
tried
Nice.
We tried to find a Coke one for Shiva, but we couldn't
Mm-mm.
find one. But oh well.
That's
I'll-
okay.
I'll order one online.
We'll get one. It'd be okay.
I was going to say, I don't think she'll mind.
No, probably not.
She doesn't
care. She doesn't care. All right. So kicking our episode off tonight, something
A little
very
different.
very different from what you guys are used to from us. But I think we all kind of came to an agreement that this is a topic that we needed to bring to the front and talk about it.
Yeah, and it wasn't something that we, could do our usual make light of the news or make light of the administration or make light of other things going on around us. A little bit more serious topic, obviously. And it was just having the conversation of, what do we do? Because it's definitely making its rounds in Washington. It's definitely making its rounds on media and social media. And it's becoming a topic that a lot of people are struggling with. What is the right answer?
And is there a right answer?
Is there a right answer?
I mean, there has to be a solution out there, but what is that solution?
And it's good
So-
to get other people's opinions too, I think.
Yeah.
Instead of just, a handful of people trying to make
One decision for everybody.
right. And it's like, no, get some input here.
Yeah.
There are people out there that got some good ideas.
That there is. Did you want to did you have that letter pulled up, or you can do that later?
I was going to do that later. So, but to give a little explanation, a little background. So Dan, who was aware of what the episode was about, had written a letter, and he wanted to kind of, express from his point of view what, just kind of, I guess, how do you want to describe it? His feelings and his sorrow and what he was feeling. And while I appreciate, everything that I read in the letter, we went back and forth. Keith and I talked about this as far as reading it on the air, and we thought actually a lot of it's going to get addressed. So we could probably touch on it near the end, but I think a lot of it's going to get addressed while we discuss some of this.
Right.
So
we will read it at the end. I can't talk. Maybe I should just shut up. We will.
Are
read
you
it
still
toward
drinking
the
from
end.
Vegas?
No, I'm drinking coffee. Strictly coffee tonight. That's it. So, yeah. So hopefully some of those, concerns are addressed throughout the show, but we will definitely share that toward the end of the show.
Yep.
Because I think it was a very well written letter, and I think it comes from someone who's a father, a grandfather, and a great grandfather, and I think it probably echoes what a lot of people feel, but
there's a lot of mixed emotions,
right?
Sure,
Exactly.
just the way it was 10 years ago when Sandy Hook happened, and as it always does when these tragedies happen, and it's come down to everybody always wants, how do we stop this? How do we fix this?
Right.
And unfortunately, there are a lot of us that feel that it's not being addressed in the proper context because you have too many people that, coming from different directions, don't want to discuss it. They jump on
it's a blame game.
Yeah, well, and they jump on what the media and social media pulls as, and politicians pull as, well, this is going to be the answer. And 9 times out of 10, it seems like they're not addressing the root problem, and 2, they're not doing anything that really is going to fix it.
Well, every answer they've had from the beginning, has it ever done anything? Has it ever even happened? Their answers?
Right.
No,
Right.
It's just whatever makes you feel better for the moment.
Well,
So it's just a band-aid
And that's
on
the
it.
problem, is
Yeah.
it never gets done.
Well, I really hate to use this phrase tonight, but I'm going to use it anyway because I do think there are politicians in office
They use it for their
that
poll.
do feel this way, that never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the decisions they try to come to, there's ulterior motives in there, not just, they're fooling you if you think they're doing it for the good of everybody.
Yeah.
'Cause
No,
it's
they're
really-
doing
it's
it
really
to get
not.
elected.
Right.
Or there's another,
Or there's
another
ignorance,
motive.
Yeah.
or a combination of both. I think
Right.
that there is always an ulterior motive. They're politicians. I think there is a lot of ignorance because you hear them sit there and they make these wild claims about such and such gun will empty a clip. I'm going to call it, I know better, empty a clip in a second and a half. And it's like, no, that's not true. And
But it sounds good on
it sounds
TV.
good. Sounds good. Sounds
It
scary.
sounds scary. Exactly.
Scary on
Exactly.
TV or scary on
And
the
especially for the
news.
people who aren't going to do the research and look into it, same like COVID's going to kill everybody.
And so one thing that
Well, after you look into it, it's
Right.
right.
It's
know,
not so
do your
Absolutely.
research.
no, and that's very true.
Don't just listen to what they're screaming at you.
And so one thing that, so Keith and I kind of talked a little bit about this earlier, and one of the things that we found is, so like me saying a clip versus a magazine. So technically this is a magazine, just as this is a magazine, and just like this is a magazine. None of these are clips. So the problem is,
It's not a clip like I put in my hair.
Right.
no.
Oh.
So the problem is, clip is an old term from like M1A1 rifles, where it was a slide of 10 bullets put into a clip and you slid it into the rifle. And so when the rifle was done and it expended all 10 of them, the clip would literally bounce out.
Oh, okay. So like your bullet bounces out, that would bounce out.
That bounced out.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's where the term comes from, as best I know. If somebody wants to correct me, I'm not above saying that I was wrong. But the point is, these are magazines, and when you hear politicians start off with the wrong information, it's easy to dismiss them. And so the gun society will sit there and dismiss them. But the problem is, nobody ever bridges the gap. Nobody ever says, no, that's wrong, and this is why.
Right.
and I see all these different, you know, from the left and from the right, and this is this and this is that, and they don't know what they're talking about and such. And so we have, you know, at least here in front of Wendy and I, and then you guys have bullets.
Keith didn't let us bring all ours out.
Well,
the
let
idea
me-
that
You
we
had
brought,
plenty.
the idea that we wanted to express here is, and every one of these is borrowed. They're not, we don't know who they came from. And so
They're Seymour's.
yeah, they're Seymour's. And so to bring up different aspects of what things are. And so, you know,
Well, to educate.
to educate, absolutely to
Educate.
educate, because you get the people that talk about the scary stuff, right?
Hopefully our, you know, those in higher powers are watching.
and I
They
think
can
that
use
was
some education.
And I think that was the point of this episode, really, is to kind of educate people and bring some of the facts to the table. And we tonight is the perfect night. We want to hear your guys' opinions. So
Yeah,
definitely, as we go
Definitely
on,
want audience participation.
Yes.
Any questions you may have, anything like that.
This is
Definitely,
going to be a slower show, so definitely
Yeah.
get those questions in there.
you know, so this is what most people think of when they talk about the scary rifles, right? So it's black. This one's a little bit black and brown.
It has
Yeah.
a strap.
It's got a strap. It's scary. It's got a pistol handle. You can literally put one of these
big-
big, you know,
A big clip in there.
big scary magazine, big clip, big scary magazine in here, and it looks really scary. But the point is that this is, you know, this rifle.
How many rounds can it shoot in a minute?
So that's a good point, Wendy. So
You
He's
know, I
like,
was going
"Hold
to
on."
ask some questions.
so when you talk about semi-automatics, so you know, this one, as you can see, for all those that want to sit there and talk about gun safety, so the charging
cleared.
handle is pulled back, it's cleared. All these weapons were checked beforehand. So when you pull the trigger, it fires one round. It only fires one round. It can only ever fire one round. So it's got a selector on the side, like most ARs will, and under the same design as, say, like an M4 that the Army uses, but it doesn't have the selection for a 3-round burst or fully automatic. That's not allowed. Hasn't been allowed since the 30s. So just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that has been outlawed since the 1930s, the Firearm Act, and that you cannot, unless you have a special permit, be able to do that, get something that will fire automatically.
So what type of gun is this? You may have said that and I apologize.
So this is an AR-15 pistol, technically, because of the fact that it has one of the scary arm brace. It doesn't have an actual. So I've got another rifle here, but I just didn't have room on the table that may have where it's expandable, but this particular one is not. It's fixed. By law, I can't put this up to my shoulder. And so this is, but the point is, you know, like Wendy had brought up, I'm trying not to.
So every
scratch up
time
the
you
table
pull the
here.
trigger, it can only shoot one bullet.
It can only shoot one bullet. So here is a 223 bullet.
let me
And
turn on
so-
our gun cam.
gun cam. Oh, I love
Oh,
it. Gun
yeah.
cam. So here is a 223 bullet. This same high powered, you know, as the media calls it, as the president calls it, you know, high powered scary bullet is technically used in this gun, and also used, the exact same bullet can be used in that hunting rifle. So this hunting rifle, I'm trying hard not to either scratch the table or whack Wendy.
Yeah, don't whack.
Yeah,
one.
both
Don't
of those.
whack
Both
Wendy,
of those
'cause I
sound
do
like
wanna
that's
go
gonna
home tonight.
something's gonna happen.
Yeah, but this is just a standard bolt action rifle, magazines out of it and such. So, you know,
And how many bullets can you shoot when you pull that trigger?
one,
Thank you.
only one, only shoots one at a time. This one, obviously you have a little bit more. You have to pull the trigger. You have to pull the bolt back, cycle
Pop
through,
it back in.
it puts another bullet in
Pull the trigger.
and such.
Mhm.
The magazine, this magazine here only holds 5 rounds. So you have 5 rounds in here and you have 1 round in here. But that's it. You know, again, same bullet. Doesn't get any different than that. This exact bullet right here.
Don't whack Wendy.
And you know, Lindsay and I had the opportunity to shoot a rifle like that over the past weekend.
So much
And
fun.
let me tell you something. To reload that thing, it's not as easy as people
No,
think
it's
it is.
you have to
gotta-
like yank that
yeah.
thing up.
It's not as easy. I mean,
Well, and
Or
that's
even sometimes the bolt
Like
action, it's like,
Right,
yeah.
right.
yeah.
yeah,
well, and
it's-
the thing is, and people fail to realize that handguns are made for rough handling. They are not fragile. The technology behind any of the guns here, yours over there, anything that anybody else has at home, has been around for 150 years,
Ever,
200
yeah.
years. They're not meant to be just handled, delicately. They're
Right.
meant to be
Thrown
dropped on the
around and-
ground.
yeah.
So this is my, one of my-
Christine has a good question before you get too
what's
far.
Okay.
Christine's question?
She says, "Is there a difference in the distance of the bullet that the bullet goes between the two rifles, the very bottom one?
Yeah.
So between those two with the same bullet, is there a difference in distance?" I would think there would be because one's
Technically,
hunting.
yes, and I'm going to say that because the whole point between a rifle and a pistol. So, you have gun cam that looks at those bullets there.
Oh, the
Uh,
bullets. No.
Well, you can kind of see it on our.
Yeah. Which
know.
bullets do you need?
Well, but the point is that you have different bullets, or I mean, even same bullets. So, right, we have the same bullet that goes in each one of these
Yes.
guns. So, this particular gun here has a 7.5-inch barrel on it. This particular rifle has a 24-inch barrel on it.
So let's define what a barrel is.
So
Barrel's
the barrel
the
For
is
those
long
people
part that goes
that,
out the front.
that don't know.
so the barrel on this particular gun. Probably it's easier to grab this one.
Yeah, I was
show.
going to say, why don't you show people what
little one?
what is considered the
The
barrel?
little one. So the barrel on this, and I'm not going to go and take this apart, but basically ARs are the Lego of firearms. So you can put different stocks on them, put different grips on them, different size barrels on them. You can swap everything all the way around that you want. But the barrel on this technically is from here. I have a picture here, from here to here. So that's a barrel. But same thing on
So
this.
from the end of the magazine,
So it's
from the end
where
of
the bullet-
of the chamber.
where the
Travels
bullet
through.
is. Okay.
Yeah, so
It's
from
where
the end
the-
of from the end of the chamber
To the
to the
tip.
to the end of the muzzle
To the tip.
to the tip
So it's where the bullet travels through.
where the bullet
Okay.
travels through. And so by the way that physics works in a bullet, technically the bolt action will shoot farther or less drop. They both will technically shoot about the same distance, but the bolt action will be less drop because it'll build up more energy
Pressure.
to push the bullet farther,
Straighter.
straighter than this short barrel will, because the short barrel will have less energy because it doesn't build up as much pressure during
going
the
to lose
travel
pressure
out.
first.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I have a question.
Okay.
That is an AR-15, correct?
Yes.
What does that stand for? Does it stand for automatic rifle?
Nope. It stands for Armalite.
Which is who?
So as the original manufacturer of technically the AR, and they also developed the M16.
Thank you.
So is it one of the misconceptions that people think an AR stands for an assault rifle?
Assault rifle, automatic rifle.
automatic
I mean,
rifle.
Yeah. there's
That's
been
what
a
the
lot of-
media, because that's what the media says.
Right.
So kind of going off of what Christine said. So here is my 5-inch full size
Pew pew.
Sig Sauer. And here is my 2-inch Ruger LCR
Scooch him.
this way.
There you go. It was blending in with the.
There we go.
There you go.
So technically this will shoot
farther.
farther, or if you want to call it
Straighter.
straighter with more
Yeah.
energy. And sit there and take a laser pointer on a flashlight or whatever, try and hold it steady.
I can't.
It's going to sit there and it's going to wobble all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
I can't pull us out of the picture anymore because that mutes the audio. I forgot. So
No.
Oh.
You can't what?
I can't. If I pull our camera out, it loses the audio.
Oh, okay.
So I can't do that again because they
We're
lost.
so sorry.
They lost
No.
what you said. I lost my mouse.
I forgot what I said.
And he lost his mouse. You were talking about your barrels between those two handguns. We were talking about tips. We're talking about barrels, naughties.
And then we got all messed up again. Look at this.
What are you doing?
You know, but then we talk about, and so something that the president brought up yesterday.
So do you want to talk about your barrels again?
We can talk about. Did we?
Because
we
they
only
lost
talked. Oh, we
sound.
only talked about. We only talked about the handgun
So those
barrels.
two handguns.
So
yes.
like this
So that
45.
one-
So this 45 has a 5-inch barrel. This will technically build up more pressure
and go straighter.
go straighter technically
Than
than
that
this
one.
short 2.5-inch barrel or 2-inch barrel. I think that's 2-inch.
Sorry about that, guys.
So between those two, what are better distances for them to be used for application purposes?
So the FBI and heavy metal will probably correct me if I get it wrong. The FBI statistics are that most handgun fights are 20, 21 feet, 25 feet, 28 feet, something. It's in the 20s. It's like less than 30 feet. So
20 to 30 feet.
Yeah, 20 to 30 feet is what we'll call it. So the FBI says, the FBI actually has a statistic, and there's a number that they pin it on, like 23 feet or something like that they say that the vast majority, like 75 or 80% of handgun shootouts.
That would probably be
that short of a
would
distance.
probably be when I would feel uncomfortable enough
that
pull
somebody's
mine.
approaching you.
That
and you're
somebody's
gonna
approaching me. I don't know who you are. You have something in your
so
hand. That would it's probably
so theoretically it's room distance. It's from one end of the room to the other end of a room, you know, and things like that. So, you know, this particular gun is probably best suited for a short, and that's what this is probably intended for. Most likely is this is a self-defense.
That's it in your purse.
Yeah, this is something that's easy to conceal. It weighs next to nothing, and this is the perfect personal protection type gun.
Okay, so Christine asked, does the length of the barrel make a difference in the velocity the round travels?
That's exactly what the difference is. So, Christine, you're absolutely right. So the energy is the velocity. So it's a combination of actually, well, it's probably mostly the
pressure behind it.
The pressure behind it. So most of these bullets, they're rated by an organization, SAMI, that says what the feet per second are supposed to be on these. But it also usually comes with kind of an asterisk as to what,
depending on what you're using it.
It all depends on whether it's a short barrel like this or a long barrel like that, because they're going to widely vary between the two.
Absolutely.
You know, so a rifle, according to the federal government, and the rifling does also affect the distance. So you have a different twist rate, is what they call it. So Erica's really smart. She's got a good idea.
That's my girl right there.
So she's absolutely right. So there's things called rifling. Had I thought of it, I would have had, because I literally.
Now, is that the spin of the bullet?
Well, it causes the spin of the bullet. So you can have looser rifling, which is, you know, say like on an AR, you can have like a 1 in 7 spin.
Mm-hmm.
So for the heavier grain bullets, it'll, if I'm remembering this correctly, it won't spin it as fast. But on the other hand, for the lighter weight bullets, because of the fact that they need to be spun faster, because they're so much easier to be blown off target by wind or whatever. So they will usually have something like a 1 in 9 twist. Oh, you guys are testing all my knowledge.
See?
Wow.
Good job, Erica.
Hey.
Do you want to get to the let's start on the PowerPoint? Get going on that.
Just one more point I wanted to bring up. So the 45 here has a 10-round magazine. You know, when they talked about high capacity magazines, your magazine over there for the 9 is what?
16.
15 and 1 in the chamber, so 16
So
rounds.
16.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you talk about magazines, it's unfair to talk about 15-round magazines or 10-round magazines or whatever, because of the fact that, you know, this is it all depends on the bullet size and things of that nature. So again, these politicians are talking and they don't really know what they're talking about. On the same token, my little 22 revolver
That's
here.
such a cool gun.
Ain't so much fun.
I have had this forever and a day. This is 10 rounds, 10-round revolver. So the breech break,
But a 22 is a lot smaller bullet too.
smaller. So we'll talk about a little later about what the
different calibers mean and what they can do.
What they can do, the feet per second, and the energy, depending on what the size of the bullet is. You want to talk about the PowerPoint?
Yeah, let's as we're going, John and I worked on a little PowerPoint to kind of bring up some different topics here. So
the one thing that we wanted to bring up, probably the most important, the overriding, is the fact that I get so irritated when the president talks about, are the deer running through the forest with Kevlar vests? Because that is so misleading.
What?
What?
So the president will sit there and says, who needs a 30 or a 50 round magazine? What are the deer running through the forest with Kevlar
you never heard him
vests?
say that speech?
No.
Oh, he says that all the time.
Yeah.
So the Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting. I just want to say that again. The Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting.
Well,
The
in all fairness, a lot of people bring that up when gun control comes up, that they bring that up as, what do you want to call
An
it?
argument?
An argument, a
Right.
defense that, oh, well, we need this for hunting. If it's not for if the Second Amendment is not for that, someone needs to correct them that.
Yes.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more, because of the fact that it does not.
Because then the other side jumps on that, and that seems to be,
And then they're like, oh, well, you can hunt doing whatever. Yes, you can use bow and arrows and everything to hunting. The Second Amendment is not for hunting.
And heavy metal, you're absolutely right, because I want to sit there and scream at the television or my laptop or whatever every time I see him say that. And it's, the Constitution does not provide you protection to hunt.
No.
Does not. That is not the intention of the Second Amendment. They could
That's
literally
game and fish.
they could outlaw hunting tomorrow, and there's no constitutional right that you have to be able to hunt.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell everyone what the Second Amendment is for then.
We'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
Only
Don't jump
otherwise
ahead.
we're gonna jump back
Don't
and
jump
forth
ahead, Whitney.
I'm jumping ahead. Sorry.
Stop it.
So
I know.
and then the other thing that the president likes to say is the fact that he says the Second Amendment is not absolute, and they banned cannons back when it was written in the late 1700s. And that is been proven false by several news outlets.
I was going to say, I know from where we came from, during the 4th of July parades, there were people that had cannons and they were part of the parade.
Our neighbor downtown has like 4 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's an
probably got
interim
the balls
period.
to go with it.
So there was the
I like that. Sorry.
during the Revolution, there was the Continental Navy, which was basically they should know. They absolutely should know, but that doesn't mean anything. I agree with you, Dan.
But the rest of the
they
world
should
isn't
know,
smart
but
enough to know that.
But see, the thing is, they prefer to lie, and I'm going to say it straight up. They prefer
Because
to lie
nobody's
because
proving them
knows.
wrong.
Nobody
Nobody's
knows.
looking into it and saying, "Gee, that doesn't sound right."
Because they think that they are under some false impression that 80 million people believe their every word.
Right.
So again, if you look at it from a historian standpoint, when the Continental Navy was done, when the Revolution was done, the Continental Navy was broken up. It was a bunch of they just federalized a bunch of boats, but all these ships technically already had their own cannons. And then before the actual United States Navy was commissioned, years and years later, they federalized or I'm drawing a blank on what the word would actually be. Not privatized, but basically they went and they said privateers. They created privateers and had any boat that wanted to go, any ship that had its own cannons to be able to go out there and do raiding. They allowed it.
Yeah.
And they would get paid by the federal government for doing such things. So this is totally wrong, because there were boats out there that had their own cannons. U.S. flagged ships. So again, the president is full of BS.
You see Joe's comment up there?
All laws repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. That's a good one. I'm going to have to actually look that up. Marbury and Madison, 1803. Okay, that's a good one. I did not know that was an actual precedent.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look that up. That's good to know. Keith, I'm going to let you read this.
Would you like me to read that?
Yes, you can read it.
Types of guns. handgun. A handgun is a short-barreled firearm that can be held and used with one hand. The two most common handgun subtypes in use today are revolvers and semi-automatic pistols. Now, why are they semi-automatic? Because they can only do one at a time and they reload on their own.
So as fast as you can pull the trigger,
As fast as you can pull the
those
trigger.
bullets come out.
Yep.
But and now all of a sudden I feel bad because Lindsay didn't ask me the question. When I held this one up, my 22 revolver,
Yes.
you didn't ask me the question.
What is a revolver?
No. Well,
Oh.
I mean, we obviously,
Don't know what my question was. I'm so sorry.
Obviously, we know what a revolver is. So
Yes.
it revolves.
Spins in a circle.
So, but the point is still, this.
It reloads itself.
Oh, if
This
you got to
is-
cock it back,
Or do you have to cock
this
it
is
each
a
time?
semi-automatic weapon,
Same as that is.
just like this is.
So it
These
is.
are both semi-automatic.
It's
weapons.
exactly the same because the first time you do it, you have to either cock it, the whole thing, or just pull the.
the trigger.
The-
Yeah,
what is that called?
What
is that nubbin called?
I like nubbin actually.
What's that nubbin? You have to pull the
It's
nubbin
called
back.
A hammer.
A hammer.
But-
Or you have to pull.
So I like. So
you have to
not-
cock it or hammer it.
So technically, there are two types of revolvers. So the old original revolvers were what were called single action.
And you had to like flap.
So you literally had to pull the hammer
double
back.
action.
You had to pull the hammer back, and you had to pull the trigger. So the old westerns.
That's what you seem like.
That's exactly why, because they were single action.
I always wanted to shoot
Double
like that.
action is where like this one is, and the 357 are, where you can literally have the hammer resting in its resting spot. So it's resting right on. It's resting right now.
Yeah.
On the, if this had a
It's not pulled
round,
back.
if it had a round in it, it would be resting right on the primer, and I could literally just pull this handle, and it would fire.
Okay.
And so if you notice on this particular one, the hammer. Is
So
what
you
they-
don't have to pull the hammer back.
This one
Only the
there's
first
no
time.
hammer.
You know, he
I don't
said
even have
not
to
even on
pull a
that one.
hammer
You
on
don't
that
have
at
to do
all.
it at all.
Oh, okay.
Single action, you don't have to pull the hammer
Okay.
at all.
Okay.
So that one's actually called a single double because I can pull the hammer back and it'll stay,
Or
or I could just pull the. This one has a hidden hammer, so the hammer is back here and it's hidden, so it's for not being able to catch on your clothing as you draw it. And again, there's nothing to pull. You literally pull this out of your
just pull the
pocket and
trigger.
start pulling the trigger.
okay. Thank you, John. Second is a rifle. A rifle is a long-barreled firearm. John,
Oh well,
We're waiting for your
I'm
Vanna White.
not going to pick it up. I'm just
Okay.
going to do my.
there you
Vanna
go.
White.
Wait for your Vanna White. A rifle is a long-barreled firearm designed for accurate shooting with a barrel that has a helical pattern of grooves, which is rifling. Good job,
Ooh.
Erica. Cut into the bore wall. A shotgun. A shotgun, also known as a scatter gun or historically as a fowling piece.
I've never heard that before.
Never heard of that.
It's an old world.
I've heard of a
term.
scatter gun. Is a long-barreled firearm designed to shoot a straight-walled cartridge known as a shot shell, which usually discharges numerous small pellet-like spherical sub-projectiles called shot, or sometimes a single solid projectile called a slug.
So I meant to bring our.
We don't have a shotgun.
I meant to bring a shotgun shell. Completely forgot about that.
Mm.
And I also meant to bring our BB gun.
Oh.
So everybody,
We
hope,
blew ours up.
I hope everybody knows what a BB gun is.
Seriously?
What, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Too much gopher shooting.
The CO2s don't seat right now. Something happened to it, and
Keith used it
when
too
you go
much.
when you go to reload the CO2s on it, it just sprays CO2 everywhere.
It just
Really?
makes-
Okay.
Oh, that's
I-
crazy.
I do it in the trash. Just
Well, most of the time when a
Mm-mm.
gun blows up, quote
Yeah,
unquote,
yeah,
blows
that's-
up,
Sorry,
it's
yeah.
usually pretty traumatic.
careful with
No,
your
And
terminology.
so sorry.
it might involve a hospital trip.
Yeah.
No, it
But
didn't.
a shotgun shell is basically, it holds a bunch of BBs in it.
Yeah.
It's probably the
Yes.
easiest way to describe it if you ever.
We have BBs downstairs.
I mean, now we have.
So when you
Different-
shoot it, it has a
Spray,
spray.
basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so when it comes out of the barrel, exactly right. It comes out in a cone pattern, and it goes depending on the way that the barrel is designed. It has different chokes at the end, blah blah blah. That just
One way or the
determines on
way,
how
yeah.
far it disperses.
Right.
A shotgun is typically, and if somebody wants to
It's
correct
not
me,
supposed to be lethal, correct? It's more to,
oh, I've had lots
Well,
of
it's-
rabbits in my day that have said
that
it
have
was
said
lethal,
different.
well,
It's
I mean,
not-
for something small like that, yes,
Yes.
but for a person, it is not lethal.
No, I'm not going to say that. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
blanks have been known. So, before Rust, what was the other big back in the 90s?
The Crow with Brandon Lee.
So, Brandon Lee actually killed himself with a blank.
What?
He didn't kill himself with a blank. He was shot by somebody.
No, he picked
Wasn't
up the
he?
gun and he did it himself, if I
Did he?
remember correctly.
No, I thought somebody shot him, but
Either
I could be
way,
wrong.
Yeah, I
either
thought-
way,
Somebody, can you please?
it was a blank.
Fact check him.
It was a blank in the gun,
Mhm.
and so
But a blank has no
whoever
projectile.
it has a small projectile because it has to plug the
Okay.
it has to create that pressure to be able to have
Make that pew.
so I
Okay.
mean I've seen lots of videos where, and it's all over YouTube if you wanted to ever look it up. I've seen lots of videos where same thing with a bullet, if you don't have the pressure on it, where the movies sit there and show that they throw these, I remember Red as a prime example, where he throws a bunch of 9mm bullets into a frying pan and they explode, but they're not necessarily bullets flying all over the place. They
Yeah.
literally just kind of go pop
Yeah.
yeah.
and stuff. So according to the videos I've watched, because there's no direction, there's nothing that's actually going to make
Yeah.
it build up.
There's no
and
pressure
go
to
in some
push it
direction.
somewhere.
And so the same thing. But
So going back to Brandon Lee, sorry, don't mean to interrupt.
no,
you.
no, no.
So the gun was supposed to be loaded with bullets, but apparently they found later that there was a 44 round bullet that was that had been lodged in his abdomen. It entered his abdomen and lodged in his spine,
Really?
Mm.
fatally wounding him.
Okay.
Yeah, it's bad.
Prop gun and died.
Oh, okay. It wasn't the Crow. Okay. I knew that there was something where he shot himself. Somebody shot himself in the head with a prop gun, and it was enough to be able to
Kill him.
So going back to
right through the temple. I mean, that's soft
Oh,
bone.
yeah.
That's not gonna
so shotgun will definitely
do some damage.
do some damage at short distances. Now, I can sit here and take this bolt action gun, and we could go out hunting 300 yards easy. Somebody who is way better than me and Wendy could probably go out and do it for 500 yards or more.
Yeah.
On the other hand, shotgun is good for, if you can get 40 feet,
Yeah.
that'd be probably pretty far.
It's very like, hey, I'm up in the tree. There's the deer below me kind of stuff.
Well, even for a deer, it wouldn't be technically
Mm-mm.
humane to shoot a deer with this unless you were using a slug, which is just one solid projectile. But there's been
So it's
lots
more
of
for
cases-
birds, squirrels, rabbits.
Yeah, there's lots of
They're in the bush.
Small game.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
lots of instances where the military uses a certain type of shotgun, and they use it for either door breaches or they do it for extremely short distances, like
Okay.
clearing houses and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
when Biden talks about taking your shotgun and just firing 2 shots in the air, it's probably not a smart idea, huh?
It's a horrible idea. So he gets and again,
We're not
those-
allowed to shoot in the air in Arizona.
Well, because
Nowhere you
I mean,
I was
besides
going to
the
say
fact that-
nowhere you should.
besides the fact that there's laws against shooting in the air because of the fact that
That
gravity
one-
does come
yeah.
into play at
Yeah.
some point.
Something's going to come back down.
And
Whatever
this
you
bullet
put in
is
there.
going to come back to earth. The other aspect of it is if you shoot a gun at somebody, the expectation that Joe Biden was saying was that they're going to run. What if they don't run?
Right.
If I shoot my gun at
Especially if
somebody, if
you
I pull that
know-
trigger, my intent is to kill them.
Well, and the other thing
Done.
is if you
My
got somebody
intent is
who's,
not to scare you.
who's in any way savvy, you can understand the difference between a shotgun sounds significantly different than a
Mhm.
rifle. It's a louder boom instead of a bang.
Yeah.
And so if somebody knows that you shoot 2 and then they hear you cock the gun and break it open to be able to put 2 more shells in,
They're coming for you.
they're coming for you. Because
They
now all of
know.
a sudden they know that you are tied
You're
up.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're occupied.
Okay. Can I go into machine gun?
Do it.
Yes.
We don't-
Machine
we do
gun.
not
The
have one to
best
show.
part. This is the part that's been regulated since the 30s.
No, those are the ones that you see in like the old
The old Tommy guns.
That are
They're,
like-
they're self-fed. They're, usually have a
that you have on
ammo
top of
belt.
the truck or whatever.
Well, those are machine
Right?
guns,
In
yes.
Good Morning Vietnam that are on top
Yes.
of the Jeep.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. how to go.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Shoot to stop the threat.
So machine gun, automatic weapon of small caliber that is capable of sustained rapid fire. Most machine guns are belt-fed weapons that fire from 500 to 1,000 rounds per minute and will continue to fire as long as the trigger is held back or until the supply of ammunition is exhausted. Can I say one thing first?
Sure.
You want to know why machine guns are outlawed? Because nobody can afford 1,000 rounds in
I
like
know,
4
right?
seconds.
Not now. Not now.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So, what is an AR-15? So, back to what Wendy had asked. I think it was Wendy had asked. So, AR and AR-15 stands for Armor Light Rifle. After the company developed it in the 1950s, AR does not stand for assault rifle or automatic rifle. AR style rifles.
I think that is probably one of the biggest misconceptions
Yes,
out
absolutely.
there.
Yes.
Because
Well, I hate to say it. I thought it too.
mass media.
Because I
likes to
asked Keith, I said,
exploit
what
that.
does AR stand for?
Because we listen to the media, and that's
And
what
I
the
didn't
media
do my
pushes.
research into it because I didn't have one. Like,
Right.
So, AR style rifles are not assault weapons or assault rifles. An assault rifle is fully automatic, a machine gun. Automatic firearms have been severely restricted from civilian ownership since 1934.
That's a long time.
a long
1934. I mean, we're coming up to almost
yeah,
100
that's
years.
almost
We're
100 years from
yeah.
there. That's 92 years.
So,
No,
to be able to get what they call a Class 3 firearms
God.
license
88 years.
88. Yeah.
for a automatic firing weapon of any type, any caliber, doesn't matter. It could be, you see videos of guys that have modified their Glocks to fire automatically. So it fires a 9mm automatically. That is outlawed unless you own a Class 3 firearm license. And that is for that weapon. And so you have to get a special background check and you have to pay a special
Fee and everything.
fee
I'm sure.
to the federal government to be able to, so it's registered, the weapon's registered, all that kind of good stuff.
Nice.
Same for a silencer, all those types of things.
And even on the AR-15, there's modifications you can make to that to make it a automatic weapon. I was watching some
Any gun, I
videos.
think.
But
You
are
can.
those
And,
legal?
the vast
Are they
majority of
legal?
guns, I mean, we
No.
couldn't do it for the bolt action, obviously,
Yeah.
because it just doesn't work that way.
Or the revolver.
Right.
The revolver, not, but it's those types of things that you could. But on the other hand, there are, when they talk about gun control, there are a lot of gun control laws already in place that restrict what you can do. This gun right here, this pistol, this 223 pistol, I cannot put it up to my shoulder and fire it in that manner.
But is a criminal really going to say, "Oh, I can't do that"?
That's
We'll see again.
that's a point we're going to bring up later.
Okay.
For
That
sure.
is-
I'm
Again,
jumping
Wendy,
ahead.
jumping
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
But
You're right.
But let's address the elephant in the room. Does it stop the criminal,
Does any
does
of these
it-
laws stop the criminal?
or does it just stop the law-abiding citizen?
Exactly.
So now I have to ask. So some of the laws that are on the books, is it by state? Is it federal? Or how is it working these days?
So, like the law that's listed here from 1934. So the Firearm Act of 1934, that's a federal law.
That's federal.
Okay.
Okay.
So you have, but the states have the ability to ratchet up laws stricter.
as well. Okay.
So you look at some of the
But they
strictest
can't
laws.
they can't circumvent the federal law, correct?
Correct. So it's written in the
Okay.
Constitution that the federal law overrides all state laws.
Okay.
But the whole point
Just
is
to
the
make it
fact,
clear for
again,
everyone.
going back to the Constitution, the way it's written is the fact that the law is supposed to be given to the states unless there's a reason the federal law needs to be passed.
Okay.
So, like this AR pistol is not legal in California. I don't think it's legal in New York. And it's severely restricted in some states like Massachusetts and Illinois and such.
Okay.
You don't have to read that whole thing.
I don't have to read it.
No, because there was
Thank
just some
God.
interesting points on there. I just wanted to bring up the fact that it does not stand for automatic rifle or assault rifle.
No, and this is a good point. I like, and it talks about, different game hunting cartridges like a 30-06 or a 300 Win Mag. And for anybody that knows anything about guns, a 30-06 where the bullet is much bigger than what this is, that will, if you're not ready, it will put you on your butt.
Yeah.
A 30-06 has a kick. A 300 Win Mag has a kick. And a 300 Win Mag is, at least a handful of years ago during the Chris Kyle period, 300 Win Mag was his go-to, according to his book, his go-to sniper rifle. Because they would reach out and touch people
I'm sure.
quarter mile away.
I have to laugh at Heavy Metal's comment there.
Assault rifles are illegal in Mexico, but ask them how they work out for them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For
Doesn't
their
the
military
cartel-
and for the cartel.
I'm
it's
laughing
working out
more
real
of
good.
of the term assault rifle.
Well, did you know that the largest caliber you can legally have in Mexico is a 38?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me. I'm surprised you can have any.
You can have a 22 and a 38 or a 380, but you cannot have.
Really
So no
surprised.
wonder
Cannot-
the people are like held captive by the cartel, because the cartel doesn't go by that.
Yeah.
Right. They're a
They don't
wash.
follow the laws.
I know.
Oh my
right?
God.
They're a wash in AR.
They do.
Yeah, or well, they have a bunch of
They're great abiding
AK-47s, or they
citizens.
have AR-15s that the Obama administration had given them.
So
Yeah.
what would be the? I mean, I'm gonna ask, what would be the difference between AR-15 and an AK-47?
AK is Russian, right? And the
So
Russians make the
AK,
AKs.
AK actually, it's something Kalashnikov. Heavy Metal will correct me. I know he will because he'll help me.
What is it, Heavy?
But it's something Kalashnikov. That's what AK stands for. It's a 7.62. It's not a 7.62.
Very
But
true.
it's a
Dan.
much bigger bullet. It's a much heavier bullet. They're not as accurate. They can be made. There are some AKs that can be made to be competition ready, but they have a much heavier bullet. So when it hits you with a lot more force than this.
With a lot more oomph.
So anybody that doesn't know, the Army is actually looking at upgrading from 223 5.56. So technically, this is a 223. One of those over there might be a 5.56. It's technically the same bullet, but it's got a higher pressure charge in the back of it. And but the Army is finding that 5.56. There we go. So it's saying that a 5.56 does not have enough lethality as far as the Army
So
is concerned.
this is a 223. Make me big, please.
Make me big.
Make me big. So this is a 223. I'll put it in front of my M&M cup so you can see the difference. This is a 5.56.
Can you spot the difference?
Nope, because I had to read the back.
And I'll tell you what, throw the 357 next to it. I would much rather get hit by a 223 than that 357.
This is way heavier.
Well,
That
and it's a
thing-
hollow point
That
too,
thing
isn't
is
it?
going
Well,
to
that too.
that
but
thing
this
is going to
heavy
really
compared to
mess
this.
you up. And if
Yeah.
that
Bigger at the
45,
bottom.
if that 45 was a
That
hollow
45
point,
is gonna.
if that
Yeah.
45 was a hollow point, that would definitely too. I
I can't
actually,
afford the 45 hollow points. That's why we just have practice rounds.
I did a test with my kids once where I took I had them hold out their hand and I held a 9mm, I don't know, 6 inches above their
Yeah.
hand, and I just dropped it into their hand. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
And I dropped to 45 and he goes, ow, that actually kind of hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't like, you know,
No.
he didn't wince in pain, but he goes, okay, I get
Like
the
I
difference.
felt that.
Yeah.
I get the difference between what a 9mm and a 45 is.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Heavy Metal. I didn't see your comment about the
7.62, 39. Yeah. Okay.
What's the difference between the M16 and the M16A1?
Just slight differences. So the M16, the original M16 came with the, I don't know what you want to call it. So gotta do this without
So
spilling
is
my-
the M16 a rifle?
Yeah, so the old
Okay.
Army M16. So you see how this buttstock here is kind of solid and it doesn't move. And I don't remember if the A1 is where they came up with the collapsible buttstock, but basically they were small modifications. So that's what an A1 is. It's a small modification. I think there was about 4 or 5 modifications to the M16. So it's
But
just
that's what each thing was
yeah,
just
it's just
something
it's
else
just
they
small
tweaked
little
on it.
design changes here and there to be able to put things in perspective, make it easier.
Should have got you a gun rack.
Right?
Just set it on a gun rack.
Well, the lights make me the most nervous because I know I'm going to whack one of them.
That's all right.
Nah, they're plastic. You're good.
They're
Oh,
bulletproof.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
They're not glass.
Actually, shoot at one of
Just
them.
don't whack me, okay?
Yeah, just
No,
don't
and
whack
that's-
me.
that's
And
the-
don't step on the dog.
They're bulletproof. Don't worry.
Probably not.
So, and I'm glad that Keith put this in here. So,
Can we make
This
it
is-
big?
can we make it big?
Can you zoom in on it? There you go. Okay.
Still won't be able to read.
So does
Oh, well.
everyone
I can read
who-
that to you.
who wants to buy a firearm
So
have
this
to
is
fill
a
this out? Is this a federal form or is it by state?
U.S. Department of Justice.
Okay, so it's federal.
It's a federal form. So, when they sit there and they talk about loopholes,
Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
ATF.
so anybody that
ATFE.
so you go to a gun store,
Yes.
you know, the good old fashioned gun store down on the corner. You have to fill out one of these forms, and
Mhm.
it has to be run by ATF to be able to see if you are allowed to have a firearm.
Yep.
If you go to a gun show, you are supposed to fill out
Fill
one of
that
these
out.
forms.
You said supposed to.
There are some small instances where you don't,
Such
If-
as
such as if it's a private seller. So right now, the only instances where
So if
you
it's a
don't-
private seller, so like if I sell you a gun,
you
I don't have to fill
you
that
don't
out.
have to do that. That is
because
the
how would I
that
get it
is the
checked?
quote unquote gun
Yeah.
show loophole. Is that if I wanted to take one of these guns, you say I really like that gun and I wanted to sell it to you for $100.
Yeah.
We don't have to go down to the gun store and fill this form out and send it into the ATF.
Okay.
At some point, though, it does have to show change of hands, though.
Well, you can make that
Well,
choice,
the whole
right?
point is the
So
fact
if I sell it, I would want to call them and say, "Hey, I no longer have this gun. I sold it to so and so."
just in case it's used in
Because
some
A
God
sort of
crime.
forbid, so
crime.
and so
Yeah.
decides to go shoot up the
Yeah.
liquor store.
but the
and then
idea
to pull
those
the
numbers,
intent-
it's
and
gonna
you're,
go
and you're
to me.
absolutely right. The intent, as far as I know, the way I've always heard it, the intent was the fact that they didn't want to have to make parents have to go through this process, or the children in the event of an estate sale and, you know, oh, that's grandpa's gun and I want to keep that, to have to go
Oh,
and get
okay.
this and have to go through
Recertify
this
it and
and
blah, blah,
all this
blah,
kind of
and-
stuff because of the fact it's just a hand-me-down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah, but there should be
And-
some change of ownership.
Well, I mean, I will say I'm torn in the respect of, you know, this 22 revolver. This was a gift. This was given to me back,
A million years ago.
30 years ago or something like that. It was a gift. I mean, I've got a rifle back home. It's a 22 lever action that literally is, it shoots 122 and you have to open it back up and pull
Pull it
one
out.
the bullet out and put another bullet in. It's like the most awkward thing. And it's a great fun little target gun. That's all it'll ever be.
Yeah.
And again, it was given to me when I was, I think, 10.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up a totally different point. Someone comes in, breaks into the house. They
Takes
steal
your
these.
weird little
Yeah,
lever
they
action
they
thing.
take this. And how do you file a police report based on a gun that you
you didn't now own.
exactly? And if it gets
Well-
recovered, how do you prove that that's your property then?
Yeah. Or how do you get reimbursed from insurance because insurance covers guns?
Right.
I
Like,
am
how
a-
do you get
I
that?
am a security professional.
Wow.
Saying.
So you have on camera the guy who stole it. Good job.
I
Not
am.
necessarily
No.
unless they cut the power.
Yeah. So I mean, good job. But
Ooh.
now,
Yeah.
but what do you do? Stop being technical and be for real life people who
Yeah.
aren't security professionals. Smarty pants.
I'm just.
I mean, the
I
gun
am
was
poking
the gun.
holes.
I mean, to be fair, the gun was given to me as a gift back before these forms existed, back before these
And
laws
that's fine.
existed.
And I-
100%
and
And
totally
so,
good.
I mean,
I get
I
that.
get it. There is nothing. So now you're saying that I should.
So
I mean,
if,
to do that, I would have to take my own weapon, go down to the gun store, fill out the form,
can you
send it
register
in,
this?
and pay the gun store the $25, $30, $35 to do the registration to the ATF.
So do you have
so
to
I
do it
can
to the
take-
gun store? You can't do it.
You can't do it yourself. It has to be
Ah,
it has to go through.
like through an authorized whatever.
It's a federal firearms. I forget what the L stands for.
But that's
Licensing or
that's
something.
what Noah was telling us. We were talking about that. But he said any gun before a certain year, though, you don't have to. If it's
They're
an older
listed as
gun.
antiques then.
Right.
Well, my issue isn't that. Like, that's fine. My issue isn't that. My issue is like Wendy said. So somebody comes and takes this gun, whether they commit a crime or not, whether they throw it under the seat, whether they throw it in the lake, I don't care. How do you get reimbursed for that?
How do you get reimbursed for your stereo system? How do you get reimbursed for your laptop? How do you get reimbursed?
You have pictures of it. You have receipts of it. You have all that stuff.
You don't have pictures of your guns?
Oh, I don't have pictures of my guns.
I do.
I bet you do. Where's
that Tim Allen going?
Yeah, I bet you do. For the normal person who's not a security
Just
professional,
for the record, I am clothed in every one of these pictures.
I'm sure.
Okay, we didn't need
I
to
know,
go down
and-
there.
And and heavy metal is absolutely right. And so there is going to probably be some kind of legislation they're going to at least try to pass, if not pass, that they want guns kept in a safe, and they're going to require guns kept in a safe. And so if guns,
I mean, I get that there's two sides to that story, because you don't want it in a safe in the event that you're home and there's a break in and, oh, hey, hold on, let me go to my safe and get my gun out.
Yeah.
That's not going to work really well.
Like this rifle, 100% throw it in the safe. That's not going to be the one I'm going to pick if somebody's breaking in the house.
Right.
You know what I mean? Absolutely.
my reach out and touch them rifle.
I don't need my reach out and touch them rifle when they're in the kitchen. They're across the street, sure.
See, you're absolutely right, Desert.
Okay, so I have to take pictures.
Yeah, you should technically, because I mean, it goes back. This is just general proper way to do. I mean, you should every now and then take a video camera and go through your house and capture
the dog's doing something weird.
So
you had to go there, but I mean, your television, your computers,
that's true.
your
Anytime
appliances,
you update anything,
whatever.
My nephew has a spreadsheet of
He's
what guns he has,
special,
when he bought it, how much he paid, how much it's worth, and he's got pictures of everything. And
technically,
and that makes, I mean, you're
crazy.
supposed to do
and the
that.
serial numbers and all that other
you
good
should
stuff.
do that.
He did it more because he's going to forget what he bought, because he bought it to play with it, and then when he wants to sell it, he'll just give it away for nothing. But then he has to look at what he put in. He did it for that reason.
So Keith, what constitutes a mass shooting?
So in the United States, there are several different but common definitions of mass shootings. The Congressional Research Service defines mass shootings as a multiple firearm homicide incidents involving 4 or more victims at one or more locations close to one another.
I have a question about
Clear
that.
as mud.
Sure.
Multiple firearms?
It's either or of those categories.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's not all inclusive. It's got to be.
Why would it be?
Yeah, it's not very well defined, is
So
it?
the shooting at the hospital.
Yes. Apple told me about that. I
classifies,
don't know anything about it.
I never said these were mine.
These are Seymour's.
These are all Seymour's. So the hospital shooting classifies as a mass shooting because there were 4 victims,
including the shooter. So there's 4 total.
including the shooter.
Now, did he fire? Did he
kill himself? Yes.
Oh, he did.
He
Okay,
turned the weapon on himself.
that I wasn't aware of. Okay.
So, and it goes back to the problem with this, and so we'll talk about things a little bit further on about Sweden as an example, who ranks behind the United States, and when you look at it from the standpoint of guns per capita, they're right behind us as far as gun ownership.
Right.
Okay.
But they have, and I forget, it's in one of the slides, they have something like 14% of what we have for mass shootings. So
And why is that?
But that's the question. Why is that? What is it that causes all these people? And seeing, I think Christine's going right where we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's because of the fact that
Because there is no
problem.
mental background check.
And now
when you
it's,
buy a gun. It's just
and
if
we
you've
have
done
a
a
bunch of
felony or
people that
not.
are afraid to call out because they don't want to stigmatize somebody. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. Or the flip side of it is back 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there was these things called swatting.
Swatting.
So people were calling in their neighbors
Oh,
that
come on, like swatting
so and
flies?
so
No,
is
listen.
so and so is on the edge. They're about to shoot up the entire neighborhood. They pulled out their gun. They were out waving it around in the front yard. Next thing you know, a tactical unit from the police department shows up, busts in the door, and
It was a false allegation.
Right.
and they're just doing it just because they don't like
Because
their
they're
neighbor.
an asshat.
They're an anti-gunner, and they know their neighbor is a gun owner. Whatever the case may be, there's been some instances.
Then in
where
that instance, that should go back to them and they should be put in jail.
But it's all confidential.
It's all anonymous.
Right.
And it shouldn't be able to be anonymous.
I would totally agree with that.
You're jumping ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, dang it. Don't jump ahead. I'm so sorry.
We need to push
But
through these slides because we keep getting ahead.
But the point is that these are real concerns, because the same with red flag laws. These are real concerns because of the fact that they get abused. Just like everything else, they get abused.
Yep.
And so while they're made with good intentions, allegedly, there are way too many people out there that are willing to abuse it because I don't like that person, or I don't like the fact that they have a gun, even though it may be just a little 22 revolver. I don't like the fact that they have a gun. I saw them buy ammo.
Eventually it becomes the boy who cried wolf.
And the problem is
Right.
there have been some of these people that have been the quote unquote victim of this that have been killed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because
Because
if you
next thing you know,
react when people are busting in your house,
They grab their weapon and they start shooting, not knowing, because all they know is somebody kicked in,
somebody's
somebody in
busting
black
the
kicked in the
door.
front door.
I don't know who
Right.
you are.
And so, especially when there's, police were doing a lot more of no knock warrants,
Mhm.
so things were happening. What my head?
So why would he not be able to purchase a gun on that form?
Because
Unless
if he
he's
buys it from an individual, he doesn't have
Well, I
to.
know, but why would he not be able to buy it from a gun store?
Because you do actually have, as one of the questions, and I should
don't
have,
have
I
to
thought
answer
about,
it.
I should have, there is true.
I can lie on that form. Why would I not lie on that form?
So, I mean, there is something that says, do you have
Wanna
a drug-
whatever, of
Do you have a
course.
drug abuse problem? Do you have a mental
Are you
issue?
gonna answer yes?
But if if there is some, doctor, whatever, I don't want to say doctor, but if there's any kind of background that,
There's no medical background check.
there's
That's
not.
what it comes down to. There's no medical background check.
Right.
It is
Okay.
just if you have had a felony.
I'll bring
Okay.
that point up later
Yeah.
too.
Okay.
So we will bring that up. So
Stop jumping ahead. Gosh darn it.
his history of single shooter mass shootings in the United States from 1891 to 2016. We have some things in here.
1891.
1891. So we have Parson Hall School shooting in Liberty, Mississippi back in 1891. We have Lehigh University shooting in 1936.
St. Mary's.
We have a Grand Rapids High
Lucid
School
School
shooting back
in
in 1968.
1891.
Columbine here, getting to some that we hear about. Jonesboro Middle School.
So are these all schools?
These are all mass shootings.
They're all mass
Virginia
shootings.
Tech here, Fort Hood here. So this wasn't a school. This
Okay.
is Fort Hood. Dark Knight Theater shooting in Aurora, Colorado. Sandy Hook, obviously. The Navy Yard shooting in Washington, D.C. Community College right there. San Bernardino right there. Navy Reserve in Chattanooga. And Pulse Nightclub.
I just thought it was interesting that they went back that far. I didn't realize they
1891,
were
that's
tracking
crazy.
mass shootings back in the 1800s. So that's
Right.
interesting.
But
Yeah.
again, it comes back to, I think we were kind of touching on it and we kind of strayed off, is what has changed. It doesn't happen in Sweden, where up until a handful of years ago, they used to have a law requiring every house had to have an automatic weapon. And I'm not sure if that's true. It said in the document, in the article I was reading, automatic weapon. I'm betting it's probably more of like a semi-automatic, like an AR style weapon. But at least they were required to have something that if, everybody could defend themselves or be able to defend the country.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to guess it goes back to the people in that country are happier overall than the people in the U.S.
So there
Going
was
back to more of a
Switzerland.
mental state of people in general.
So there was and I meant to grab it when I saw it, and I was tied up with something else. But earlier this week, there was something I heard mentioned. Actually, I think I was driving, and they were talking about a study that had been released probably this past week or the week before that talks about how there's more severe depression among teenagers because of COVID.
Right.
And so you think about, unfortunately, the Uvalde and the
Buffalo one.
Buffalo, thank you. The Buffalo shooting, those were both 18-year-olds.
Right.
And so, I mean, they started
Just
off
out of high school.
15, 16 years old when COVID first happened. And so here they are, the product of these lockdowns and these, distant learning and these, masks and all these different things.
We're shoving them in a corner and don't talk to anybody. Don't touch anybody. Don't do anything. And those are prime years of your life. Like, think about how much you talk to your friends and you didn't talk to your
absolutely.
parents.
Well,
and you're stuck at home with your parents all day.
Absolutely. And, especially
That's
if these are
huge.
people that are, these are kids, teenagers that are already on the edge.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, any teenager already is ready to
And so they get
murder
pushed,
everybody.
and they get pushed to that little bit more, and this is what happens.
Yep.
And so this is a good statistic. I saw this everywhere else. How it fluctuates, but it definitely has jumped up over the last couple decades.
Yeah. Yep.
And what is and again, nothing's changed as far as if anything, the amount of guns have gone up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't track with the number of guns that gone up. It definitely lags behind. But the idea is, so what is the root cause? So, another way of looking at it, the number
That's
of
my whole life.
That's your
It's my whole life.
I just wanted to point out, what the Second Amendment actually says, well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So again, when the president talks about is not absolute, sorry, there's those last 4 words kind of says this is absolute.
It's absolute.
And then there are plenty of people that sit there and talk about the well-regulated militia. And so if you've never had the opportunity to read the Federalist Papers, it's interesting reading. So quotes from the Federalist Papers. These are the writings. The Federalist Papers in a nutshell are basically what the framers wrote about. They were like the rough drafts of the Constitution when they were trying to put this all together. And you have Thomas Jefferson that said, no free man shall ever be debarred the use of firearms. George Mason, to disarm the people, that it was the best and most effectual way to enslave them. And then who is the militia? They consist now of the whole people. And then he later wrote, a well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people, safe deference of a free state.
So I'll go back, please. So a well-regulated militia composed of the body of people. I think that middle part is very important. Trained to arms is the proper, natural, and safe defense of a free state.
Mm-hmm.
Trained of arms. That is 100% what we are lacking.
And there used to be
back in the... People are going and getting guns and have no training. And not even like talking about mass shootings, but they're injuring themselves. They're injuring others because, I went and got a gun because my boyfriend said I needed one. Okay, have you ever shot it? Have you ever done anything with it? No, it just sits in my purse.
In a drawer,
and they used to have.
Okay.
And in gangs, it's like they want to shoot them sideways. And it's like,
that's not how you shoot, bro.
Right.
I'm sorry.
So
it makes you look cool, sure.
So Wendy went and took a training class when she first got her.
Yeah, when I first bought mine, I made sure I signed up for it, and I took it.
I learned a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it was like 16 hours or something like that. Yeah.
I'm gonna derail for a minute just because we keep having these questions come up and it's kind of I keep trying to.
Are we behind on questions?
Well, I keep trying to hold off on certain topics, but since the questions are coming up, first of all, I want to put up deserts because that's a great comment. I've had firearms training in elementary school. So, and I think a lot of people do. A lot of people grow up with weapons with their family, and I think I agree. I think you should. So Ballistics brings up a good point. You don't think the violent video games that kids get to kill people at will, gender identification, that's confusing the hell out of kids.
I'm 50-50 on that.
So, well, I'm not. I've always been a believer that you teach these, especially young kids, they see these video games, you get shot, somebody runs over, gives you health, you get up and you're back to playing again, you're back to shooting again. I think some people don't have the capacity to separate that from real life. I think they think
think
that
you're
Is
right.
that
that's how
any
it
different
works.
than a violent movie?
It's not. No, it's not. But
If they don't have that mental
but
capacity,
that
is it any
goes
different?
that goes to proper parenting. I mean, I grew up watching Rambo and all that
Oh, yeah.
shit. You know, I didn't turn out to be a violent person. You know, so I think a lot of that has to do with parenting.
But again, does that have to do with the movies, as you're saying?
It doesn't. But it's a culmination of things.
It goes
though.
back to the mental issue, and
Right.
so. But I will side with Lindsay a little bit on this because of the fact that you think about one of the disturbing factors that came out of Sandy Hook was the fact that the shooter. So where's my? Oh, it's in the gun. Not worried about it right now. So 30-round magazine for an AR. When you play the first person shooter games on Xbox or whatever,
Sure.
you sit there and sometimes when you get a chance, you will just hit the reload button and it will change out a magazine, whether you've used
whether
all 30
used them or
bullets
not.
or you've
Yeah.
only used 10.
Two.
Right.
And they found that there were several magazines sitting on the ground inside the school where
There was only a couple shots.
yeah, he didn't use the entire magazine before he changed. Every time he left one room, he changed magazines to go to the
because
next
that's
room.
what you do in a video
That's
game.
what you do in the video game.
So
that's
that's
disturbing.
really pointing back to linking it to video games.
So
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
what he's practicing on.
Yeah.
But again, it's a mental
It does,
issue.
but on the other hand, it was a mental issue because of
Right.
the fact that, you know,
He's now attesting this to a video
again,
game. This real life.
the
Well, I
video
think
game
most
did
of-
not. The video game did not. In both instances of both Sandy Hook and Uvalde, the video game did not. I don't think was the catalyst to make them shoot their closest relative.
No.
Well, I think any mass shooting or any shooting, there's something wrong with you unless you're doing it in self-defense.
And that's a great point because that's one of the points I wanted to bring up because I read 3 studies where it showed people with severe mental disabilities.
Mhm.
Studies show that they don't tend to be violent people. Okay, they tend to cause more harm to themselves than they do
than
other
anybody
people.
else.
But I don't care who you are, if you have the ability to just walk into a building and kill people, there's something mentally wrong with you.
Right. But
You're
how do
not
we,
right.
Right. But how do we recognize that? Because I think that's the
I thi-
biggest
so no,
issue
this
is
is-
how do we pinpoint who is likely to do something like that? And
So this is where I'm going to call on the parents. So almost all of the stuff I was reading about when you go back through and later down the road, and it's usually the ones that are a year or 2 out once you get the parents are like, oh, I always felt that something wasn't right. Say something.
Right.
I'm sorry. Don't you want your
Right.
child? I mean, yes. Okay, sure. It's going to be a gut punch when something's not right with your kid. Don't you want your kid to succeed? Put them on a medication. If one medication will make them better and let them be productive, do it.
or
It's just this-
counseling or whatever
It's
it
just
is.
like saying, oh, I have high blood pressure and it's genetic. Okay, well, take a pill if it's going to make you better. And then you can live your life. Don't sit here just because something's wrong. I mean, yes, it's going to suck, but get them that help. Don't
No, and-
deny it.
and I would totally agree with that.
But I think that's where it comes down to. I think the family, the parents, the close friends didn't want to say anything because they didn't want to upset them.
and sometimes it's
Get them help. It's
well,
fine.
and I'm not trying to play devil's advocate, but being a parent of a at one point in time, we'll call him a troubled teenager.
As we all were.
Yeah.
Yep.
Been
Yep.
there.
Sometimes trying to get the help or get them
Yeah.
to that where they're
It's hard.
refusing.
Mhm.
I mean, he had to be court ordered.
Yeah.
To be
And
able,
if you have to get to that point, you have to make that decision. Like,
right. I mean, he did it himself he kind of helped the situation, but I think, looking back, that
It's
was
hard.
great. Yeah, it was hard, but I think it helped him long
In the future
term.
now.
However, how many people may have been going down that road, but
and stopped.
well, not
Or-
just stopped. They just didn't I don't want to say
Pushing.
keep pushing.
Yeah, keep pushing.
I mean, it's like
absolutely
I went in front of the judge and said, no, he's got some anger issues that
something's up.
I want it court ordered that it gets addressed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes it has to get to that, unfortunately. But we can't just keep ignoring it. Then we have situations like this.
Right.
Well-
but sometimes they don't do something to put themselves in that particular situation where they're flying low enough
To where they're on that edge.
right, they're on the edge, but they know that they haven't crossed that line to
Exactly.
Another commonality you notice when the story finally comes out about these shooters, especially the younger ones, they tend to talk a lot about their life growing up. Either they were abused at some point or they're bullied in school, and that's where they take out revenge on somebody else, or they've had a violent past.
Right.
A lot of them that comes up. In
Dan brought up a good point. A lot of times they are loners. They're social outcasts in a lot of these situations. Going back to Columbine as a prime example, they were the trench coat mafia. I think.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
We're the two guys, and so this is where it comes back to one of the possible solutions that I have that we'll bring up later that might help in some respects. Wendy and I brainstormed this a little bit last weekend, I think it was, and we came up with a couple possible solutions that might help, that we think are real world solutions that might, instead of the politicians passe what they're coming up with, these are actually real world things that we think might actually help. Well, and Christine, I think a lot of times you have too many of these parents that just want to be their best friend.
Well, they can't actually. Oh, I can't spank them or yell at them. Like they'll be upset.
Or let's face it. I mean, it's like the law sometimes is not on the parent's side, because you go to discipline them. I mean, I had my son
that's what it turned into, but that's what we turned it into. We turned it into where you can't punish your child.
Right. Because
tell me I'm not going to spank a kid.
Right. Because I mean, Nick called the police on me one time, and I was like, okay,
bye.
You get to talk to them, have fun.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point that Bios the Books brings up. Back when we were growing up, you didn't have a choice.
Yep.
Kept
it. I got threatened. I got threatened with Catholic school.
So, Dan,
it won't be bad anymore. I'm so sorry.
Dan, do I want to tell you about the greatest espionage leak in the United States Navy history was from a guy that had that exact thing where he. It was either jail or join the Navy, and he joined the Navy and ended up giving all our secrets to the Russians. But,
oh my goodness!
All right, so
just
saying.
Just saying.
Oh boy,
John Walker, look it up.
So Sam Adams,
not just a beer.
No, it's not.
To prevent the people of the United States who are peaceable citizens from keeping their own guns. Basically, I should have highlighted the earlier part. The Constitution shall never be constructed to authorize Congress to infringe on such liberty or the press or the right of conscience, or to prevent the people of the United States who are peaceable citizens from keeping their own arms. And then Richard Henry Lee of Virginia, a militia, when properly formed, are in fact the people themselves. And then you can read the rest of it. But it's just, I mean, these are the way that they spoke back when this was formed.
And these are multiple, it's not just one person.
It's not one person.
It's multiple people saying the same thing.
These are the people that put together the Constitution.
Right.
And this is how they were looking at it. And the Federalist Papers, this is just a small part of the Federalist paper. Tench Cox put in here best. Who are the militia? Are they not ourselves? Congress has no power to disarm the militia. I mean, that says it right there. Right. I mean, there's so many more instances. I could only, at some point I had to stop, but it's, I put this together, kind of give a little bit of
the Red Rider.
A little background on just, so I put in what some of these bullets are. And so it's one thing to sit there and look at feet per second. And the one thing I forgot to put in here now that I look at it, because I meant to put in what the speed of sound is. Because the speed of sound is it's 1,100 something feet per second.
Oh yeah. It's 11 something
feet per second. And so you got the Red Rider gun, BB gun, 270 feet per second with 85 foot-pounds of energy versus a 22. And it's funny, I actually thought it was kind of interesting, the fact that 22s and all of these, you can get different velocities out of any of these. So I was trying to pick kind of the middle of the road.
Right.
You know, 223. I picked a 55 grain bullet. Same with a 5.56. But I thought it was interesting that a 22 1070 is kind of the middle of the road. You can get slower, you can get faster. That's the one that's subsonic, so it doesn't break the sound barrier.
The 45?
But it's only 131 foot-pounds of energy. It's not that much bigger than a BB gun.
Right.
But then you go
No.
up to a 9mm, and this is where the president, again, makes himself unbelievable because of the fact that he tells these wild stories about some doctor that told him that a 9mm will blow out your lung. He could remove a 22 from some guy's lung, but a 9mm will blow your lung out. That's what he said earlier this week. And the thing was, I was sitting there and going, if you look at FBI statistics,
22 won't even go through your calf muscle from a long distance.
But the difference between a 22 and a 9mm, that they say a 22 will bounce around in your body.
22, if you look at the FBI
because
statistics,
if it hits bone, it bounces.
a 22 caliber kills more people every year than rest of the calibers combined.
Yep.
Well,
Because it does more damage once it's in there.
Internally, yeah.
There's that little 22 over there on the end.
And isn't that more commonly
So this
used
is a 22.
It is more commonly used.
Okay.
It costs a couple
Here's
pennies.
a quarter.
That's
for-
I was going to do
It doesn't even cost a quarter for that 22.
Seriously.
They're
it's
typically
like-
somewhere in the neighborhood of about
13
9 cents, I
cents or
think, something
something,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So a 22 or a 9 is just barely taller than a quarter.
You'll see it on the next slide. I think the next slide, right?
Oh, the next slide. Okay, so
There
there
you
you
go.
go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's at 22, and that's kind of a funky looking 22.
And size
actually.
does matter, by the way.
Size does matter. I know.
It's a hollow point.
Yeah, so
Oh, it's a hollow point 22. Ooh.
and if you know anything about guns and weapons and calibers and stuff like that, this is the one that's really going to mess you up.
Yeah.
This 40
Yeah.
caliber, this thing is a screamer. This thing goes
super far.
super fast. It goes way faster than a 45. And there was
Yeah,
a
the
short
45
period,
is nothing.
there was a
Like, it
short
doesn't go
period.
far.
No, I would never say that out loud.
Well, it doesn't go far.
I love my 40. Sorry,
You
she
love
didn't-
my
she-
45.
Sorry, she didn't mean it. She didn't mean it. So the 40 caliber was actually developed. If I remember the story correctly, the 40 was developed by the FBI or in concert with the FBI because they needed something that was more lethal than a 9. But they ended up finding out that it was wearing out guns too fast
Really?
because it was cycling. So the cycle on a gun was going so fast that it actually was wearing out the guns.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So the FBI is not doing that anymore.
No, they're back to 9s.
They're back to 9s or 357 SIG, which is a 357 variant. It's not that 357. So, and you see all these different things, the different feet per second,
Nice.
and the energy. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, you get up here, you have your 223, your 5.56, but then you get up into some of these hunting rifle, and a 2,500 feet per second for a 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, which is the round that will literally go out and touch people. That's
your gun and touch
that's
people.
the one where you want to go out 1,000 feet. That's where you go out.
Right.
And the 6mm special, 6.8,
Wow.
that actually is going to be the new rifle cartridge for the Army.
Really? Okay.
That's going to replace this.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
So, and then obviously I just had to throw in a 50 BMG just because I could. I mean, that thing is a monster.
God.
But Wendy's heard that thing go off. I think you guys have heard that thing
Yeah,
go
we
off
heard
too,
it go
right?
off at
It's
the
a
range.
it's a
Yep.
boom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you feel that in your
So
soul.
thought this was an interesting fact. This is something that Joe
Oh.
Biden said back in the.
Wasn't this his
I was
first
gonna
time
say,
he
how
ran
long
or when
ago
he
did
ran
he
as
say
vice
it?
president?
So Wendy, go ahead and read that.
I have never believed that additional gun control or federal registration of guns would reduce crime. I am convinced that a criminal who wants a firearm can get one.
That is the truest statement he's ever spoken.
Absolutely.
That was before he liked
back
ice
when
cream.
he was lucid and didn't need a
Ice cream.
Apparently,
ice
he
cream.
needs to go back and kind of revisit that, huh?
He doesn't remember that. Can't.
I heard the most idiotic thing earlier this week. They were talking about, I think it was yesterday, they were talking about the fact that Biden was going to, after he gave his speech about gun control, he went off to Delaware again for the week, right?
Right.
For the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, it's his wife's birthday. And so they had a right-wing strategist on as a panelist and a left-wing strategist. And the left-wing strategist actually made the comment. He goes, well, I always keep hearing these right-wing media things talking about he's not actually running the country. So what does it matter? Really? You just said the quiet part out loud? So Sweden gun laws versus the U.S. Despite Sweden and the U.S. having two of the world's largest, highest gun ownership rates, Sweden only has about 14% of firearm fatalities, 14% of the firearm fatalities than the U.S., with only 2 mass shootings between 1983 and 2013.
Wow.
While the U.S. had 78.
Holy crap.
So
Again, it doesn't come down to the gun. It's not the gun.
It's the
it's
mental
the people.
state. It's
There's
the
a mental
state.
issue
Yes.
within the country.
So I looked it up. Just why people in Sweden are happier than the US. And it says, in fact, the more you earn, the more you are taxed, which avoids people from overworking. The result, healthier work-life balance. All these factors combined with clean surroundings, negligible pollution, and a community-oriented attitude led to Sweden being ranked as the happiest despite being so cold.
We're going to move to Sweden.
Well, they got all that free hot chocolate too.
Yeah.
Oh, what? They give you free hot chocolate?
Swiss Miss. Come on.
Swiss Miss.
No, that's from Switzerland, not Sweden.
Oh,
Wow.
I was so close.
You were so close.
So Biden again was talking yesterday about the assault weapons ban from the 90s. And this comes up multiple times. You can look it up. It basically talks about the final report concluded that the success in the ban reduced crime committed with banned guns was mixed, and crimes that were initially involving assault weapons declined, but they were offset with regular weapons.
You're
regular
absolutely
handguns.
right, Christine.
Yeah.
What did Christine say?
Guns don't kill people.
People kill people.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say 100%. I'm going to say 1,000%.
But, and again, here is these are some of the past mass shooting gunmen. I think this guy down
so
here,
how
this is the evolving
how can
one,
we
right?
identify them? Because I think it comes back to identifying them and doing something about it instead of just, oh, well, it seems as though in our society we can't do anything until somebody actually does something. It's just like a stalker.
Yeah.
Until they actually do something to somebody, then they can't, then
you can do something about it.
Exactly.
These guys were.
Well, and I think people are so worried about hurting somebody's feelings, especially nowadays.
This is,
you could
Sandy
offend
Hook.
them.
Yeah, Sandy Hook.
This is obviously Vegas.
Yep.
I don't know who some of these others are. Not that it matters.
But
again, there's been so many documented things in hindsight. Yeah, I saw this. I saw this on Facebook. I saw
this
say,
later.
social media.
I saw.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh heavy metal, but
they all look so
that,
normal.
that was the point in bringing the pictures up.
Yeah.
It wasn't, nothing more than that. That clearly there's something
Wrong.
And I mean, let's face it, going back to if you see something, say something. After 9/11, we were, everything was, oh, if you see something that doesn't look right, say something. When I rode the train into Chicago every morning, that's what we heard on the thing.
Mhm.
If you see something, say something. Why don't
we
we
heard it
do
in Vegas on the tram too?
Yeah, why don't we do this with?
But again, like you said, if I call in and say, oh, well, so-and-so wasn't acting right and he said some weird things. Okay, well, can you prove it? Well, no, because I was talking to him.
Desert, you're absolutely right.
But at least you're at least pointing it out. Whether or not somebody acts on it, that's
fine.
No
and
longer
no longer my problem. But at least maybe it's somewhere down the line. So if they say, oh, we've gotten 10 calls about this, Wendy Clausen, maybe we should call her.
Yeah.
Maybe we should look into her. She seems a little sketchy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you read this, or
key insights
Elsie.
and statistics.
you don't have to read all of them. Just
in
what are
2017.
some of the highlights you wanted to point out?
The first one.
The first one.
In 2017, the FBI reported 401, 840 burglaries, with 57.5% of all burglaries involving forcible entry, Criminal Justice Information Services Division.
Wow, that's a lot.
There are 2.5 million burglaries annual in the U.S. Every 15 seconds, a home burglary occurs in the U.S. A break-in occurs every 26 seconds. Okay, what is the difference between a home burglary and a break-in? Because they just said a home burglary occurs every 15 seconds.
Well, breaking could be a store, it could be.
And then they said a break-in. Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm with you. I'm with you now. It's like a grocery store or something. Okay. Homes without a security system are 300% more likely to be broken into and burglarized. 46.9% of people don't have a home security system installed in their home.
Shame on you.
83 from the security people, you should have one.
Shame on you.
83 of would-be burglars check for presence of an alarm system before attempting to break in. 34% of burglars use the front door when breaking into a home. There are 2.5 million burglaries annually, and 66% of these are home invasions. Police.
Sorry, I put up a comment.
Exactly.
What?
Exactly. Police solve only 13% of reported burglary cases.
Yep.
That's it.
And so and I don't know. So
Yeah, sorry about that.
And the
That's
thing
cute.
is, we're living in a society now that wants to defund the police, wants to vilify the police, to the point to where now there are less
Oh.
police.
Oh, but who did we call whenever there's a shooting?
Can you
Right.
bring that last slide up and blow it up? You think, or
I
no?
don't know. It doesn't allow me like the other stuff. It
To
doesn't
zoom
allow me.
out.
It
Okay.
doesn't allow me to navigate.
Oh, it
Sure.
just lets you zoom it up and you are where you
Zoom
are.
it up.
It was interesting just because I found that, and I was hoping it was readable, but it talks about the different states.
Well, they can go back
and how
and
many
zoom it open.
break-ins, yeah, and it talks about how many break-ins involve firearms, and that was really the point that I was trying to make. Is, you know, by implementing stricter gun laws on law-abiding citizens, you're
You're gonna
taking
up
our
those
right away
numbers.
to protect ourselves when the criminals don't give a shit.
No,
They're going to come in, and it even goes into different categories like firearms, knives, different weapons. They're coming at you with something.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a gun.
Well, they're not
Yeah,
breaking in
but-
a house with nothing.
but
Come
you-
on now.
but
over Christmas,
some of them
there
are,
was that parade that was run down.
Oh yeah, they used the car.
And
Yeah.
so, Wendy and I were talking about this, and I said, you know, if the Uvalde shooter wanted to make more casualties, he could have just waited until recess.
True.
Mhm.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
You know, and
He
he
done
could
them
have
when they're
just
outside.
he could have either, so Columbine is a prime example. So those that don't remember,
don't give them ideas.
Columbine, they actually went
Right.
inside and they pulled the fire alarm and stood outside and wait for the
Everybody to
the
run
victims to come to them. The Uvalde shooter could have literally either waited till recess or could have used his truck at recess.
If mass
He had
casualties
a
were
full
his-
size truck. He could have literally just drove through. And I know the vast majority of most schools I've ever been to, being a security professional, the playground is wide open.
Yeah.
But in that particular case, he was on the run because he had just shot his grandmother, correct?
Yes.
So I mean, I don't think it was planned out per se.
where he ended up.
Well, I think he knew where he was ending up, but
Mhm.
as far as time wise, I don't think he was looking at being there at a certain
Yes,
time.
you do, Dan. Yes, you do.
Vicious.
And as a security professional, and Keith will probably agree with
Dogs
me,
are great.
I don't care what security system you have. Any dog is the best security
Yep.
system you
Absolutely.
can have.
My pity in that window is vicious.
Well,
Yep.
the pity is one thing.
It's the
'cause, boy,
noise. It's
she
the noise.
looks
she looks
vicious
like she's
when
gonna
she.
eat you.
But on the other hand, even a Chihuahua
They don't shut
will
up.
wake up.
Oh yeah.
Well, to
anybody.
wake you
wake
up
the
or
And,
neighbor,
to,
wake up.
most burglars will probably walk away if there's a dog.
yeah,
Mhm.
because they want to be undetected.
And
Great-
gun-free zones
great
are a
point.
major problem.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So what is the solution? How do we protect our rights but still protect our children?
You're asking me a
That's
question?
the $1 million question.
Is that the $1 million
That
question?
is the $1 million.
You know my
question.
answer?
So Wendy and I
Or
had
no?
come up with a
Oh,
couple
Wendy's
different
answer.
things. So I had come up with, if they want to sit there, because again, we I didn't want to read this, but basically the whole point of it is that there are 18 to 20-year-olds that they're picking on because of the fact that this seems to be the current trend. Well, even if you want to pick up to 21.
Well, and as Christine pointed out, they can buy from an individual and still get a hold of the gun. They don't have to go
Well,
through
that's
a gun
very
store.
true. Sandy
Well, you
Hook.
can get it off the black market too.
Well,
I mean, there's so many ways.
absolutely.
If you want a gun, you can get a gun.
Sandy
That's not a
Hook, it
problem.
was not his gun.
Right.
Sandy Hook, it was his mother's gun.
I love
So-
that.
Absolutely. I
love that
100%.
idea.
That was my suggestion.
I love that idea.
Yep.
And I do
Absolutely.
like the idea of hiring vets, but
They're trained.
But most vets have a day job.
They do, but if that could be their day job, tell me they're not going to
And
retire in their
so-
50s and go hang out
but
there all day.
there is that possibility. So, there's that aspect of it that you just got to figure out who are the right people to be able to do it, because the vast majority of everybody has a day job.
Yeah.
So you got to find those types of people. The one thing that I'm looking at from a standpoint of, if you just do a simple, so like I pointed out here, the military does a mental eval before they just hand somebody a rifle.
Right.
So what about just doing, and I know as an example, when I had my concealed carry back in Illinois, I had to, and a lot of states do this, where you have to get the local law enforcement to sign off on it.
Nice.
So why can't local law enforcement just be able to go and do a quick, for lack of a better word, sanity check?
They can't
Absolutely.
get cops to work
Absolutely.
for them now.
Okay.
But see,
They are
you know,
so
but-
defunding the
but
police.
staff.
We
have
can't
an
do it.
investigator that just spends a little bit of time and just does an actual, goes and talks to the family, goes and talks to the school. If they're 18, 19, you can go and talk to a counselor or somebody and, was it a trouble student? Was there a problem? And
And
then
I
go
agree
and talk
with
to
that
them, or go and
100%.
talk to their employer and say, hey, are they okay? Do they seem like they're socially, okay? Or is there a problem? If there's a problem, then you transfer that off to, and because I get it.
And it
Cops
goes
are-
to a next. Yeah.
Cops are not professionals in this aspect.
Goes to the next level.
But at least
Yeah.
they can say, hold on, we're going to hold this application,
Yeah, something doesn't
look-
and
seem
we're going
right.
to forward you on to
Yeah.
a professional.
Absolutely.
Let
But if
someone
there's
else-
nothing that seems if there's nothing that seems wrong, seal the record. Here you go. Have your purchase.
Right.
So
I agree with that.
So going off of that, so in Arizona, so I can go right now and go get a gun, and I don't have to wait 48 hours because I have my fingerprint clearance card. So that, you know what I mean? They'll run it. I can walk out.
Ooh.
So why are we not getting a mental health clearance card along with that fingerprint clearance card? And it's good for 2 years, same as your fingerprint clearance card, where you go, you get your
For
background check
everybody?
for every single gun purchaser, because you're going through that check. So when I buy this gun right now, I have all my bells and whistles done, and it's good for 2 years. So this is something, and this is a good way for the government to make some more money. You pay
guess
for this, you do this, and then you're getting that check on your own.
Here's the problem.
Now, if you don't have that clearance card, you have to go through it, like John said, where they investigate you for each purchase.
Here's the problem. Problem is, first of all, it should not be ran by the government. Okay, we all
Well,
know that.
no, but
Yeah.
then they're
But
whatever.
where does it stop you on your mental eval from saying, okay, what type of medications are you taking? And what's to prevent them from saying, okay, if you're on this medication,
you're on Ritalin?
you can't.
Oh, we
yeah,
can't give it
you
to
can't
you.
own a gun.
There is nothing. We don't know anything. If there's any sort of mental issue, it should go to the next level.
I mean, and you're,
it may not be a
you're
men- it may
hitting
not
on
be a
you're
mental
hitting
issue,
on the
though.
first thing that I thought of is the only issue with it is where does it get abused?
Exactly.
Well, and it's got
As
to be
it's
on,
going to be with anything.
Because
but how do
there's a
we
difference
weed that
between
out?
there's a difference between getting cleared by the local sheriff in Tennessee and the difference between getting cleared by the local sheriff in Chicago.
Exactly.
well, and it's got to be on an individual case by case basis. It's not because, we're gonna, as you said, for a medication, everyone on this medication can't get it. Well, you might be fine with it, and somebody else might not be.
Exactly. And that's where it's hard.
We
So
like to lump things to make
together.
it easier,
And that's where it gets hard.
Maybe
That's
maybe
why-
I'm on a medication that's used for high blood pressure, when in another case it may be used with somebody who's bipolar. You know what I mean? You have those
Exactly.
things.
Well,
that
and
are-
that's where we
and
take it out of the
that's where
hands.
it
That's where we
becomes-
take it out of the hands of the cop.
right.
Yeah.
It has to
And
be
we
on
have
a
to give it
case by
and
case.
we give it to a
basis.
professional.
Well,
And the
that's
professional
why-
has to give it an actual professional
Yeah.
evaluation.
And
Yeah.
if you have that clearance card, you're going to a medical professional. It's not the sheriff. It's not whatever. You're literally going to a therapist who's evaluating you and saying for the next 2 years, like you look like you're
So what happens when I
mentally
give her
stable.
an extra $200 and say, you know what? Can you just
what happens with any of those. I can go to the gun store and do that now.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
how's it any different?
It's never going to be 100% foolproof.
No, it's never going to.
It's not. And
But
Dan brings up a good point. So
Wait, put it
you
back
know,
on
it
the
comes
Dan's
back
point.
to so it comes back to Yes.
Exactly.
School-
schools.
Yes.
Schools should have a single point of entry. Schools
Mhm.
should have a
Cameras and security guards and
well,
everything else.
cameras mean nothing because cameras are forensic.
Right.
Cameras don't do anything.
No.
So it should be a single point of entry. It should be a locked
Facility.
a locked facility with a man trap to be able to get from the outer doors through the inner doors
Yep.
with a man trap type
Mhm.
thing. So that way you can't get into the fully thing. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of things that need to be done on top of that. So Sandy Hook, he shot his way through the doors. He didn't,
Yeah.
so he broke the glass with the gun and shot his way in.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the Parkland shooter, who was armed with a handgun and a shotgun. No, not Parkland. Yeah, maybe it was Parkland. He tried shooting. So this was in Florida. He tried shooting from a second story window at the students that were
Okay.
fleeing from the school and was stopped because they were hurricane rated windows.
No.
Hmm.
Okay.
Interesting, right?
Because it's a different school, different needs,
different needs that were required by building
Yeah.
code. So if you make this man trap where the man trap is, so like even Evolve from the last thing I heard,
Right.
right? Well, I know Epstein's cameras didn't work.
Right.
But the fact is, I know Evolve, he crashed his truck, and this is the last account I heard from Texas DPS. Walked down to the school, was walking through the parking lot in the front of the school, and was taking pot shots at the windows as he was walking through the parking lot before he even went in the building. So
he was announcing his arrival.
he definitely announced his arrival. And my understanding is, and again, the story has changed, and I haven't seen what the final account is, at least at the moment, but police did show up before he went in the building.
Yeah, but who put an end to the situation?
Well, Border Patrol, but that's a whole different situation right there. And, but Wendy brings up a good point down here. So she says, and it goes back to what.
Sorry. There's a dreaming pity.
Sorry. We got to take the gun camera and put it on Seymour because that's freaking hilarious. I look over and he's asleep on your gun case.
No, my gun case is Seymour's gun.
Seymour's
case.
Yeah,
Well,
Seymour's
exactly.
gun case. He's on
That's
his gun
freaking
case.
hilarious.
Wow.
But going back to what
And a dreaming pity.
But going back to what you said though.
Yeah.
Because this is exactly what Wendy says. For red flag laws, they need to insist that the tipster has to give
a name.
their name and contact information.
Absolutely.
And
It's going to be
And it's
held
not-
anonymously.
it's
by-
not just a name and your information. I'm sorry, you're
It
going
has
to
to
have
be proven.
Like your ID, your driver's
Yes,
license, all that
yes.
stuff.
Right.
so that you're not
Absolutely.
saying, "Oh, I'm my neighbor," and
No.
it's going to go back to them.
And they live 10 miles away.
and then on the flip side of that, because if the tipster
Is wrong.
is wrong,
Yeah.
then
Hey.
they are liable for civil penalties.
Defamation of
Or-
character. All
Well,
that other
even
stuff.
if it comes down to,
Blasphemy.
because back when there was this swatting that was going on a handful of years ago, there had been people that had been shot and killed
Yeah,
for this.
absolutely.
And
They
so
can be
murder
held-
charges could be
Brought up
levied
against this.
levied against the
Absolutely.
tipster
Yep.
if they've been found that they were doing this,
It goes back
Malicious.
to
Out of malice.
accountability.
Yeah.
and murder
Out of
charges
spite.
for whether they were for the victim or for the police officers.
I think, great ideas, but it really comes down to what we always keep saying. And I wish people would just get this through their heads. Criminals are criminals. They're going to do their act, whether or not it's lawful
Absolutely.
or not. We can outlaw guns tomorrow.
They're still
Like-
going to
like-
make them.
Like Dad brought up earlier, the black market for guns is huge.
Oh,
Huge.
absolutely.
They're going to
Well,
find
look at
the
drugs.
weapons.
What did
Look
we
at drugs.
What show is it that we talked about about the homemade guns. And they can make a gun out of anything.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
we were
Well, yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
yeah,
that?
yeah.
So I mean, even
Mhm.
if you outlaw guns like this, you're still going to be able to make them.
'Cause
Like
you can
people
take
will
those-
still find a way to do it.
Right. You can make it out of the 3D printer, correct?
Well, that too, but
Well, I mean,
granted, it's not like
it's a once or twice use.
so what if I make 10 of them?
Well, true.
I mean, if I'm that ambitious and this is what I want to do, it's not going to
Right.
stop.
I mean, it really comes down to figuring out people's mental states. It really
Yes.
does. It's
Yeah.
you got to say, whether it's in the home, whether it's parents that figure it out. We got to try to figure out what's causing these people. These people just don't wake up and decide I'm going to kill
Zip
somebody
guns,
today.
that's what it was.
Zip
That's
guns,
right.
that's right.
Guns. It's there's a pattern. There's a pattern in their behavior, and
Absolutely.
you got to find that pattern.
and we need to be able to treat that. I
Right.
mean, we've taken away a lot of mental health over the years,
Mhm.
and we need to reinstill that and allow people to it's okay to go and get,
Talk to and go
Help.
and see people.
but it doesn't
But insurance isn't covered anymore.
well, and not only
So
that,
now I have to pay for it out of pocket. I have to take my child and it's going to cost me $600.
Your Obamacare doesn't cover that.
Nothing does.
and I mean,
No health and 99%
I
of
mean,
health
I come
insurances
back
don't
to
cover it.
a couple things.
I agree, Christine.
Yep.
I would have to
Absolutely.
agree with that. I mean, I think that the situation is that it's interesting that Jean-Pierre made a comment this week that the president doesn't believe in hardening schools.
Really?
Really, that was said. That was said this week
In hardening schools?
in making schools harder, safer,
Of course he doesn't.
we
Why
spent
would he?
we spent
Why
so
let
much,
a good
because he believes that he wants to get rid of guns. And so you got Canada,
you're
who
not
just said that they are putting a moratorium on all gun sales, period. And it's interesting that they have not said for how long.
Mhm.
Not that I've heard.
because
They're
'Cause
going to do it as long
Trudeau-
as they
Trudeau
paid
would
him
like
off.
Trudeau would like to be able to make it just like COVID and say, we start it and then we'll just never stop.
right.
Yep.
We'll
Right.
keep extending it, and
But they don't have a constitution the way we
They
do.
don't have a
Mhm.
constitutional right that says that it is a God-given right.
Right.
Yeah. So I agree with Christine. And I also feel that schools are even less secure than hospitals.
In some respects, they
Mhm.
are.
Yeah, true.
It depends on the school.
We have one.
I mean, I know a lot of schools
I'm
that
sure, yes,
I mean, we've done a lot of schools that have
are pretty
been
secure.
pretty secure.
Yeah.
And
But there's a
it's-
lot of them that aren't.
But
Oh, yeah.
There's
but the
one
issue is-
entry for the hospital.
and
Two,
so
sorry.
now they
two.
say again that where originally it was listed a couple days ago or last week or something like that, the teacher left the door unlocked or open.
they backtrack that.
They backtrack that and now say that the crash bar would not latch. So now that's a mechanical issue. And again, that could happen at any building.
Absolutely. And how many people walked through that door and didn't say anything?
Right.
So when are you holding your staff accountable? So when are you going back on camera and saying, "Oh, you noticed this 3 weeks ago and you didn't say anything"?
Well, and the funny thing is, you notice, did you get the backstory in that?
Why did they have the door propped open in the first place? That's my question.
No, she did not have the door propped open. So she, the teacher, had to actually get her lawyer threaten a lawsuit to get that retracted.
Really?
Yes.
See now, and I'm hearing.
Why would she say that then?
She didn't say it. The police were saying it.
Oh, okay.
Well, the police had
The
said.
police were trying to put the blame on the teacher for
On
leaving
somebody.
the door unlocked. And she's like, nope, not my fault. The door wouldn't lock.
but she had it open. Did she not?
Propped open or unlocked?
She
Open
opened
is different.
She allegedly
Sorry.
opened the door.
She had the door
That
open.
I'm not sure about.
So the last thing I heard is she had the door open. She had a rock. She had removed the rock so that the door would close, but then it
Why is
didn't
there a
work.
rock even there to begin with?
They needed fresh air
Exactly.
because it's Texas.
Open your window.
Somebody's outside shooting. Why would you open
Yeah,
your
why would
window?
you-
Well,
window.
the thing is, it's
You have windows. Why does it matter if they're open or closed? You can shoot through a window either way.
There's a lot of sketchy things that are still
but if we have
unanswered.
okay, but if we have these security measures in place,
Yeah,
and
why
if
don't you have
people are
AC? Why don't you have a
circumventing
door,
them,
a
what's
window?
the
like-
point of them then?
Right. Exactly.
You have to follow the security measures to make them work then.
Right.
I mean,
And we see that all the time in our industry.
Oh,
We see all the time. We have put card readers on doors, and you walk up to the building and the door's propped.
Yeah.
You know, oh, I forgot my badge at home, so I didn't want to have to keep. You know what I
Coming
mean?
in and
It's
out.
just things like that. And you're right.
And I've done it. I've done it 100 times.
I mean, ironically, you know, the funny thing, and Keith would probably back me up on this, the places that had the biggest security, data centers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Not hospitals, not schools.
Talk about AR-15s.
Data centers.
Oh yeah, didn't you guys say when you went and did something
one I
like
did-
there's
the
3
one
guys standing behind you
There's
with
like 10
huge
guys
pistols.
with
Holy crap.
AR-15s walking around. Yeah.
You
That's
really?
serious.
Get out.
Huge guns,
Data centers
yeah.
are crazy.
Yep, crazy secure. So Desert's comment, I think that's what annoys me the most about our government is the fact that,
No.
and I always say that, never let a good crisis go to waste. And they
Yep.
use these tragedies as their stepping stone to push their agenda. And that's what's the most
Well,
irritating
That's
It
what's
part.
sad.
Yes.
And
It's
again,
sad.
it comes back to the fact that they're not trying to solve the
problem.
base problem.
Right.
No,
Well,
Right.
because if you solve the problem, then
then you
know,
can't use it for the next season.
exactly.
If I fix the mass shootings now, then I can't use it for next election year.
All right. We're about out of time. Can you read that letter? I wanted to
Or
have Wendy read it. Somebody who can actually read it. Because I can't.
you can't read it.
I'm blind,
No.
man.
And those are your new glasses.
No, these aren't the new ones.
Why are you not wearing your new glasses?
I don't know.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
Oh, you're in trouble.
I know.
You're in trouble.
Well, it's because I have trouble seeing close with those
eh.
glasses. I was explaining myself. Wow.
That sounded like a lot of excuses.
No, I can't see up close with those
I
glasses, so that's
know.
why I don't wear them. That's my reason. I'm sticking to it. Damn it.
All right, so let me make this bigger.
And then I'll show my little video that I prepared.
All right, so I'm just going to read it as is. I don't need to bring it up on screen.
No.
So from Dan, he says, I wanted to make this statement because I know CTC will discuss a sensitive issue on the show. As a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, I know how important it is that we patriots support the right to bear arms. But because of the recent tragedy at a Texas school, we must be sensitive to the heartbreak. We lost 19 beautiful, young, and innocent children and 2 heroic school teachers. We can never escape from that reality, nor should we. The left has quickly politicized the shooting and once again blamed guns for it happening. It's ridiculous to suggest that guns out of the hands of law law-abiding citizens will prevent future disasters like what happened at the Texas school. Criminals and emotionally disturbed individuals will always find ways to obtain guns or other material to commit their heinous crimes. We need to secure our schools immediately, no matter the cost. There are many high-tech security systems available to secure our schools. Hiring a qualified armed guard or keeping our schools locked will do much more to protect our children. If we send billions to our enemies overseas, we can spend the money here to protect our children. We need to reopen mental health facilities to address the growing concern over children and young adults struggling with these issues. We need to educate parents, teachers, and school administration to learn how to identify bullying when it happens and take action immediately. There are no quick solutions to this problem. Disarming law-abiding citizens of their rights to bear arms to protect themselves and their families during the troubled times is not the answer. My heart and prayers go out to those 19 children and 2 teachers and the parents and families of the victims. In no way is my rebuttal meant to lessen the severity of the heartbreaking and tragic incident at the school in Texas. Of course, most on the left will disagree.
That was very well said.
And I'm kind of glad you saved it to the end because it really kind of summed up the whole episode.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I mean, it really
Yep, I would agree.
re-hit a lot of points we brought up throughout the episode.
Yes.
So,
All right, time for the video.
So we went shooting this past weekend in Vegas.
So much
and
fun.
I wanted to demonstrate, because everybody brings up, that you can unload a clip in an AR quick, right? What was that ridiculous number they came up with? Wasn't it like
2.3
30
seconds,
rounds
yeah.
in like 2 seconds or something like that? They were
Something
saying
ridiculous,
something
yeah.
stupid like that. So I wish I would have thought about it when I was actually firing the AR. I didn't. So this is with my 9mm here.
Yeah, we didn't think about
And
that till after.
So I unloaded a full clip, and now I'm
16 rounds.
I am
Magazine.
I am in no way, shape, or form a expert
Gunsman.
marksman, or so I'm still new at shooting. I didn't grow up with guns, so. But I just wanted to demonstrate. I put a little clock on there just to demonstrate how quick you can fully go through a clip. So.
Magazine.
Sorry,
Magazine.
magazine.
He was wearing a clip in his hair, apparently.
I was wearing a clip. So here it is.
Would have been better if it said 556 seconds.
Right. So.
I mean, that is still,
it's still super fast,
but that's
ridiculously fast.
That's a handgun. It's not
That's
not
a handgun,
rifle.
and how you are nowhere near accurate. So
No.
if you are aiming for anything, like you said, unless it is a crowd of people, you're not going to hit every, something with every single one of those rounds.
I mean, they say
Right.
the FBI's statistics are somewhere around the neighborhood of 30%. That when police officers are under stress of an actual situation, they only hit roughly around 30%.
Yeah.
And these are trained professionals.
Absolutely. These are the ones who do it all the time.
Yep.
So can you imagine what a normal person would be who doesn't do this?
I mean,
as
I
a
know in reading some books, SEAL training as an example, they go through tens of thousands of rounds to stay proficient for when they have to go into battle.
Absolutely. I believe that.
Crazy. Could we grab that phone? Do a Seymour cam.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, you
I'll
do it. Go do it because it's kind of funny.
It
There's a
is.
pity behind me.
While
Hold on.
Lindsay's doing that, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight.
Yes, absolutely.
This is definitely
A little bit different.
Yeah, departure from our norm.
More somber and serious.
Yep. Uh-oh, we lost the camera.
How'd we lose the camera?
I think we have to reset it because I think it timed out.
Do you want me to use John and Wendy's camera then really
Yeah.
quick?
Yeah, you can use. No, because if you unplug it, it's going to go away too.
I'm not going to. I can go up and over.
Up and over.
Up and over. You got it.
First, we're going to do a pity. Pity cam. Sleeping pity.
You can see her sleeping.
Then we're going to do when you got to scooch.
Just don't disturb Seymour.
A sleeping Seymour cam.
There you go.
Almost win.
There you go. Now you got him. Sleeping on his own gun case. Look at that.
What a life.
Just had to bring that in. I thought that was funny.
He's staking his claim.
He is taking his claim, that's for sure.
You think that's going home with you? You're wrong.
So if you guys like this episode tonight, and we really appreciate if you smash that like button on whatever platform you're watching us on tonight. We really appreciate it.
Smash the like
Smash
button.
that like button.
Smash it.
Let us know you enjoyed it. And if you have any comments to make about tonight's episode, please do so. We love to hear comments after the fact.
Yep.
Other than that, everybody have a great weekend. And next week, Heavy Metal Beer Club will be here in studio.
A lot more fun. It'll be a lot more fun.
So excited.
And we'll be talking the border.
How are we all going to fit in here?
We're going to figure it out. I'll be sitting in the control room.
Andrew can sit by me.
Yes. Well, they'll both have to share the mic probably.
That's
But
okay.
so anyway,
I'll share with them.
looking forward to that. We hope you guys have a great weekend. We will see you next week. Please be safe.
Bye.